Okay, so welcome to this video. In this video, I'll take you on to the next level, which is the silver extraction from Xray films. So let's see how we can extract silver from Xray films and take it to the next level. Okay, so quickly, in doing this, let's see what we actually need. Things needed to extract silver from Xray films. We need used or developed Xray films. Okay. The Xray films must be used, okay, and they must used Xray films are also known as developed Xray films. When an Xray film is not used, it has a color of it has a light green color, kind of very light green in nature. But once it's used, it turns black. Okay, so you're looking for the black ones that have been used, and then the next thing you'll be looking at least 10 liters of water or more. It depends on the quantity you have on ground. So 10 liters of water or more should be okay. And then the next thing you should be looking at is the sodium hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide or caustic soda. Another name for it is caustic soda. The next thing there will be the sodium sulfide. That's our almighty chemical. Okay, don't forget about that. Okay, then you need buckets. About 3 of them is okay. And so let's quickly look at this. That's how a used or developed Xray films looks like. Okay, so the black region is actually what you want to work on. That's where the silver is. And so that's tap water. The next thing now is the sodium hydroxide, like I told you about. Most of them are flaky in nature. Most of them are powdery in nature. Whichever one you use, you're good to go. And then the sodium sulfide, that's our almighty chemical. Don't forget about it. And this sodium sulfide smells like rotten egg. Okay, so you need to also know how to preserve it. Preserving it and fire it in multiple leather and with multiple nylon bags. Okay, like 3 or 4. The reason being that if you expose this chemical to air, it becomes moist. Okay, with time it becomes moist and turns and becomes muddy in nature and turns whitish instead of yellow. However, if that happens to you, don't throw it away. It's still useful. All you need to do at that point is simply for you to completely dissolve it in water. And so in dissolving in water, this is what you do. For every 1 kg of sodium sulfide, dissolve it into 25 liters of water. That yellow cake, the yellow rubber, that's 25. Sometimes they say it's 30 liters, whatever it is, a yellow cake, you know. So dissolve 1 kg of this if it becomes moist into water, and then pour it into 25 liter, okay, of rubber. Then fill the rubber with water completely. So each time you're using this sodium sulfide, you use 5 liter for each 25 liter of solution you have, or even 10 liter solution you have. Use 25 liters of it. Sorry, use 5 liter of it. That small paint rubber, okay, the one they use for painting, the 5 liter. Use 5 liter of the liquid that has been mixed with this sodium sulfide for every single recovery of yours. Okay, I'll come back to that later on as we begin recovery. Okay, so that's sodium sulfide, but I like keeping my own dry like this so it doesn't become moist. I tie it very well with about 4 to 5 nylon bags and I keep it safely. By doing that, air will naturally pass through into it. Okay, you need buckets, alright, about 2 of it is okay. Now let's get into the extraction proper. Welcome. Okay, now quickly, boil at least 10 liters of water or more if you have many Xray films to work on. Boil the water, and then bring down the water after complete boiling and pour into a bucket. You can also work with warm water, with water that's not boiled at room temperature. You can work with such water. It will still give you the result, but the difference is that when you boil this water, it's fastening the process of recovery. As you get along, you realize that the water becomes cool, becomes warm in a way. Don't worry, just go ahead with your extraction. There's no problem. However it is, you still get the result. Bring down the water after complete boiling and pour into a tub. and then pour tap water into another bucket and keep it aside. Now you've used 2 buckets. The other one contains hot water. This other one contains tap water. Now, that's what you do after that. Add 200 grams of sodium hydroxide powder or flakes into the same hot water, or tap water for every 2 kg of Xray film and stir very well. Now, if you're using hot water, add 200 grams of sodium hydroxide powder. If you're using tap water, you don't want to boil your own, add 200 grams of sodium hydroxide powder too into the same into the water, and then stir very, very well. Now, sodium hydroxide flakes can also be used in the place of sodium hydroxide powder, like I told you. So, any of these 2 you can use them, and then stir very well until they dissolve into the water. Now, what do you do next? Get your Xray films and then cut them into halves. Okay? You see the way it's being cut? Leave them that way if you have a big tub. The idea of cutting them into halves is actually for you to be able to pass them through your bucket. Okay, so if your bucket is big enough, you can avoid cutting them, but if it's not big enough, then just cut them in halves, okay? So you can easily dip them into the bucket. Alright, so we get along. If you cut them in halves, this is what you get. You see now? They are now neat and ready to be used. Good, good, good. Now, dip the Xray into the hot solution, one after the other, till they become clear. You see how this one is clear? Once you dip it into the caustic soda solution, the caustic soda begins the stripping process. It strips the Xray off silver halides and galatines. We have some galatines on it. It will strip the Xray off those stuffs. So now, you can still dip a great amount of Xray films into the solution and then come back later to remove them. If you don't have time to dip them one by one, you can just dip a whole lot of them in, and then later you come back to get them out one after the other. Alright, so just dip them like that until they become very clear. You see the Xray film that was once black, see how clear and transparent it is right now. After removing the Xray from the solution, now dip it into the tap water to rinse it off the leftover silver halides. Alright, so we have tap water here. You put the Xray here in the solution, in the caustic soda solution. Forget about what's written on it, bleach. You put it in the caustic soda solution, and then you take it out after that, and then rinse it in tap water. Okay, once you do that, keep your Xray films aside. Now, when you do that, see the way the Xray films will look like. They are completely stripped off. Okay, now this is exactly what I told you about. This is what it's used for spiral banding, so you can sell this off for spiral banding. Now, that's what you get at the end of the day. Okay, see the way it is. It will be that way, black in nature, the solution, and then these are the tap water would be. Now, that's okay, that's good. Now, after that, add 2 handfuls of sodium sulfide to each 10 liters of the solution. Cover and keep overnight. For the other solution, tap water, use 1 handful. Cover and keep overnight. So, this is your sodium sulfide now. You've been able to strip off the silver halides from the Xray films. Now, what you want to do is to actually precipitate the silver in that solution. What does that mean? You want to send all the silver in that solution to the bottom of your container. And the only and the most known chemical that can get that done for you is sodium sulfide. It has a way of sending down all the silver in the solution, either in silver halides or whatsoever they are, down to the bottom of your container. Okay, so this is how you now do that. Scoop 2 handfuls of sodium sulfide and then put into the solution. If you're using 10 liters, put 2 handfuls. Even if it was 20 or 25 liters, still use 2 handfuls of sodium sulfide. When you've done that, cover it and then keep it overnight. Okay, now for the other solution, which was the tap water, instead of using 2 handfuls, use 1 handful, because that solution does not contain so much of the stripped stuff. Alright, so don't put much of sodium sulfide. The reason you shouldn't put much of sodium sulfide so that you won't actually create unpleasant smell in your environment. Because if you use more sodium sulfide than necessary, you create smell, unusual, unpleasant smell in the environment, like the smell of a rotten egg, okay, and it won't be so good, especially if you're living with other people. So, but if you follow what I'm showing you right now, there'll be no smell. There'll be no smell in the environment. I do it, and then people don't even know I've done anything. Alright, so once you've done that, stir the solution very well, stir it very well, and then cover it. It's very important you cover it. Cover it, and then keep it overnight. Now, note, after adding sodium sulfide, the solution will turn very black. Now, that's okay, especially for the tap water that was not so black. Once you add this, it will become very black. And for the solution, the other solution that was already black, it will now become darker than what it was. But that's okay. That means the reaction is ongoing. Alright, so to the next stage. Now, I need you to read this. Okay. The next day, something's going to happen. A mud or sludge will be formed beneath the bucket. Okay. Test the solution to determine if all the silver sludge are settled beneath the container before the next day. Now, this is what it means. When you come the next day, the sodium sulfide must have sent all the silver in that solution to the bottom of the container. And it does that in the form of a mud, a dark mud. So a dark mud will be formed beneath the container. Now you won't see it, okay, because the top of the container still contains a dark solution. So you won't be able to see it, except you're using a transparent container that you could see from the side. But looking through the inside, you won't see it, but something is beneath it. Now, you want to be sure that all the silver in your solution have settled down before you can go to the next stage, because the next stage will simply mean you're pouring out the water and leaving behind the mud. So you don't want to pour out the water that still contains silver. So you want to be sure that every silver has settled beneath. So to do that, you need to test the solution to determine if all the silver sludge has settled beneath the container. Okay. Now let's get to the next paragraph here. It says, now, test by scooping a little of the solution into a small container like a cup or a plate. Then put a pinch of the yellow sodium sulfide into the small container and stir. Wait for about 5 to 10 minutes. Now, what does this mean? Here's the way to test. Just simply scoop a little of the solution, not the top of it, okay, into a small container. Now, you go to your sodium sulfide, the aromatic chemical, get a pinch of it, and then put it in the small container, and then stir very well. Now, something is going to happen. Once you've stirred it, keep it for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then let's go to the next paragraph to see what's going to happen. Check the bottom of the small container for black particles or slush. If you find such, it means you still have some silver available in the solution. So if after 5 to 10 minutes, you now check beneath, to do that, just try to pour the solution in the small container back to the larger container, carefully looking at the bottom to see if you will find dark black particles or sludge beneath that small container. Once you find that, it's a sign that you still have silver in that solution that have not settled yet. But if you do that and it becomes empty, no particles or sludge, then it means all the silver have settled beneath it. Now, read the next paragraph. At this point now, go ahead and put just 1 handful of sodium sulfide again into the larger quantity. Stir the top of the solution, cover the large container, and leave it again for about 2 to 4 hours. So if you find black particles beneath the small container, it means that you still have silver in that solution. So what do? This time around, go ahead, put just 1 handful instead of 2 handfuls. Put just 1 handful, stir the top of the solution well, and then cover and keep for about 2 to 4 hours this time around, instead of keeping it for 24 hours. Now, read the next paragraph. By this time, all the sludge must have settled beneath the container. However, Test again to determine that all the silver sludge has settled down. After 2 to 4 hours, don't be in a haste. Test again to be sure that everything has settled down, the same way you tested the first time. So if you realize that things haven't settled down, repeat the same process of putting another handful. Just continue doing it till you're sure everything has settled and there is no particle or sludge in the small container you keep scooping, you keep using to scoop the solution. Now, if after testing you realize that all of the sludge, you realize that there's no silver in the solution and all of the silver have settled beneath, now you now go to the last stage. Let's read the last paragraph. If not, then continue the last process above till there's no particle found during your test. I've said that. But after the first test, normally after the first test, all silver in the container should settle down completely. But however, still test to confirm. Do send for other solution to the tap water. Do the same thing for the tap water. Test to see if everything has settled down. Now, once you've gotten this right, we can now go to the next stage. Now, after that, it's time to pour the solution out slowly to leave the mud behind, or better still, siphon the water out using a siphoning pump like in the picture. And you know a siphoning pump, you can use it to siphon water out of the container. The one they use to siphon and fill from the container into the car tank. Okay, so you can use a siphoning pump, or better still, just pour the water carefully into another container, carefully, and then carefully avoiding the particles to fall out too. So pour it carefully and then leave it behind the mud or the sludge. Okay, now that water you've poured out becomes waste and no more useful again. So please discard it appropriately, okay? Discard it appropriately at locations necessary for such. Okay, battery is showing me low, but we gotta continue. So siphon it. Now after you've done that, the sludge is left beneath the bucket. Take a look at the sludge beneath the bucket. That's how it's going to look like. Okay. Now do the same thing to the tap water, pouring or siphoning the water, leaving behind the sludge like you did for the other one. The 2 buckets have been prepared, ready for further instructions. These are the 2 buckets. They're ready. Now this is what you do. Pour the sludge gotten from the 2 buckets into the 3rd bucket, into the 3rd container. So pour the 2 sludge from the 2 buckets into the 3rd container, so that it can now be 1. Rinse the 2 buckets with small amount of water. Pour the water back into the 3rd bucket and keep the buckets clean like I told you earlier on. Cover the mud in the 3rd container and allow it to settle for about an hour. Yeah, this settle for about an hour. Come back after an hour and siphon the water. When you come back this time around, there should be water at the top. And the sludge now going down. So siphon the water or pour the water at the top of the mud, leaving the mud beneath the container. That's what you want to do. Now that's the mud and sludge captured in the container. You see the way it is? Yeah, that's it, captured in the container. Now go ahead. Now at this point, what you do now is to pour the mud or sludge into a cloth bag and hang on a rope to drain off the water. Now don't forget to capture the faucet of water that drains out back into the bag, since the stick contains silver. Now you have to create a cloth bag. Okay, a bag. You know the way they prepare akamu, ogi. Okay, you have to pour the akamu into a bag that's like a shifter to shift off some unwanted particles out. Now you're not going to use that same bag. That bag is so porous, and if you use it for silver, you will lose your silver. So don't use that particular bag. Don't use it. Just use a cloth. Okay, Ankara material is very, very okay. Sew it in the form of a bag. Okay. If you're extracting a huge amount of waste, you can use pillowcase, like it's here. Me, I use pillowcase anyway, so you can use pillowcase if you're extracting large quantity. So pour the sludge into the cloth bag and hang on a rope so that the water can drain. Now the goal here is to drain the water out so that you can have just mud left. Now once you do that, the faucet of water that comes out of the cloth bag will definitely contain silver. Capture the faucet of water and then pour it back into the bag. Okay? And once you do that, you will realize that the water coming out will now be transparent this time around, meaning that the water coming out is free of silver. So just leave it that way till it drains off completely. And once it drains off completely during the day, you now go to the next stage. And what do? You now pour the mud into a pot and heat. Now what you want to do right now, you want the water to evaporate completely. To pour the mud into a pot and then heat it. You can use charcoal. Sometimes I love using charcoal because it's faster. You can use stove, no problem. So once you heat it, you see that the gas will be given up. Now do this in a well-ventilated area so you can actually escape into the air. Heat it completely. You have to heat it completely till the water is out. Now, how do you know the water is out? Till you start seeing blue flames trying to come out of the pot. Once the water is completely out, you can be stirring it. Stir it once in a while. Come back, stir it. And then you realize that water has escaped completely, and the mud will now start drying up. The mud will start drying up, giving way to dust. You start drying up. Before you know it, it's completely dry. There's no water in the mud again, and fire wants to come out like in blue flames. At that point, it's completely dry. Bring it down. And that is what will be melting. Now when you bring it down, this is what it will look like. And that's the silver dust. Okay, so you have to heat the mud till water evaporates completely, leaving silver dust behind. And now this is silver dust, and your dust should be black. Okay, this is silver dust. Alright, so that's, at this point you're now ready, you're now set for the next level. Now read this. At this point you're done with your silver recovery, okay, from Xray. And you can take this dust to a buyer who melts it before you into sweet shiny silver for as low as 1,500 naira only, and buys up the melted silver at once from you, paying you cash instantly at the silver price of the day. I advise my students to stop at this point and go ahead to sell their silver dust for cool 5, 6 or 7 figure income instead of putting themselves through the stress of melting, since the pricing between the dust and the melted silver does not change at all. So at this point you're done. You can take it over to your buyer to melt and buy from you. So in the next video I'll be showing you something else that you really love. Once again, thanks for coming this far. Thanks for listening to me. Peace out.